Cade, our oldest son, was turning 12 years old, and we had decided to get him a cell phone. The farm paid for our cell phones at that time, but was not going to pay for their 15 grandchildren's cell phones, so I got my own plan so that I could put Cade on my cell phone plan, as well as my mother, to help her out a little bit financially. It made sense to do so because owning my own business, it was a write-off.
Approaching with State's Exhibit 206. Do you recognize these as the messages between you and Brad wrote?
I do.
I want to turn to the last page. On June 17th, did he schedule a hair appointment with you?
He did.
And when was he supposed to arrive for his hair appointment?
At 8:15 the morning of June 18th.
And you scheduled that with him?
I did.
Do you remember, did you have a couple of hair appointments scheduled for the morning of June 18th?
Yes, I have a customer that I've had for 23 years that was also my first grade teacher, and I did her hair every Tuesday and Friday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning.
You did her hair every Tuesday and Friday?
Every Tuesday and Friday.
Styling it then?
Yes, it was called a shampoo set. I would wash it, put it in rollers, put her under the dryer, and then style it. And she did that twice a week, and the world could come to an end, and she would not miss her hair appointment.
All right. And June 18th of 2021 would have been a Friday?
Yes.
Tell me about Google searches about firearms research. Were you researching this hunter education website?
I wasn't researching it. I was enrolled in an online hunter safety course.
What was the purpose of you doing that?
The purpose of that was, again, Cade was turning 12, and he was able to take his hunter safety course at that time. Ryan took the boys hunting, and I wanted to get my safety course as well so I could go with them, or if Ryan was working, I could go sit with the boys while they hunted.
Can you tell us, I mean, were you aware that some of this was being done on a private browser?
Not particularly. I don't really know how all of that works, but
Okay.
it's very possible. And I took screenshots of several of the slides, I guess you would say, because at the end of each chapter there was a test, and I took those screenshots to kind of help me cheat on the test because I wasn't doing very well.
Okay. Have you shot a rifle?
I have.
Okay.
It's been 25 years ago, but I have.
All right. Because you told the police that you'd never even shot a gun.
Yes.
That was not true.
That was not true, and the only thing I can say is in my head I was thinking of handguns at the time. I have not shot a handgun. I have shot 2 long arm rifles in my lifetime.
Many years ago.
Many years ago, before I met my husband.
All right.
I have been around guns. I don't deny that.
The evening of June 17th, you guys went to baseball. Had you been drinking?
No.
Did you see Huston driving by your house?
No.
Did Huston pull into your driveway?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did you know that Huston was stalking near your home?
That night, I was not aware of it. I was told at one point in time from him that he was going to Gladbrook, which requires driving by our house, but I didn't see him.
So You do admit that you had been texting Huston that night.
Yes.
And we've seen exhibits that are some of the Snapchats. Were there many more?
Several, before and after what they have shown you.
Okay. I want to talk about the relationship with Huston. How did you meet him?
Technically, by cutting his hair. Like others have said, it's a small town. I knew of him for years, but I started cutting his hair is how I met him.
Okay. And how often would you cut his hair?
It varied. At first, I would call it on a regular schedule of maybe once a month, and then there became a time that he started getting his hair cut every 10 days, which was, in his words, following the footsteps of Brock Wilson, who he worked with at the time at Liquid Grow. They got their hair cut every 10 days, so it never looked like you got a haircut.
Okay. And how do we go from cutting his hair to Snapchat buddies?
Flirting a little bit when cutting his hair, talking about, he was having a lot of problems with his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend, the mother of his child at the time. He only had one. Was having some custody issues with her. He confided in me a lot about that, and I guess it kind of originated with me feeling like not a big sister, but an older person to him that has some experience in marriage and children, and just giving him advice and encouragement. And I felt kind of bad for him. He was young and had children, and other people his age didn't, and we became friendly first.
Okay. So, I mean, you raise a good point, because he's much younger. So how do we get to Snapchatting Huston what we've seen?
Sometimes negative attention is still attention, and I was being showered with attention by him, being told I was beautiful and funny, and I would post pictures of the meal I had made that night for supper, and he'd praise it, or the garden that I planted, and he'd make a big deal out of, why can't I find a woman like that? And it became very flattering to me.
All right. So is it fair to say then Huston is maybe giving you some attention that you weren't necessarily getting from Ryan at that time?
Yes.
All right. Was your relationship with Huston, was it primarily online then?
Yes, 99% online. Yes, I cut his hair, but that ended at one point, and the online relationship continued.
Okay. When did you stop cutting his hair?
In February of 2021. Even when I was still cutting his hair, it's odd because when I would cut his hair, we would talk about the same things that I would talk about with any other customers, family, work. It wasn't lewd. It wasn't flirtatious. That was when we Snapchatted at night, it was like we were shy in person, but became other people when we were texting each other.
Okay. So if you stopped cutting his hair in February of 2021, did you ever have him, after you stopped cutting his hair, did you ever have him over to your house?
Not after February, no.
Did you ever see him in person again between February and June?
One time briefly in Waterloo, he had sent me a message asking if I could get him some beard wash. It's shampoo for the beard. And I agreed, and I had told him that I had a birthday present for his son as well to give him, and I was going to Waterloo, and I told him I would meet him outside of Shoe Carnival in Waterloo, and I dropped those items off to him, and that was it.
And is that the last time that you would have seen him then, prior to Ryan's death?
Yes.
talked about there's a message about a rogue semi-accident that we saw on the Snapchat. Did you want your husband dead?
No.
Why would you say that?
Because I have a really sick sense of humor sometimes, inappropriate humor, and I was probably angry. There were times that we weren't getting along the greatest, and like people have said, especially when I drink, I have a sharp tongue sometimes. I can say nasty things.
I think there might have been conversations about divorce. Were you going to leave your husband?
I didn't plan on it. No, I didn't want to break up our family. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but I knew I didn't want to break up our family.
Saw a little bit in the Snapchat content about, was Huston jealous of your relationship with Ryan?
Houston acted like he was my husband and Ryan was my boyfriend. Like I was, if Ryan and I were together, he acted like I was sneaking around with my husband and cheating on him somehow.
Did Huston talk about killing Ryan?
Several times.
Did you ever take him seriously?
No, I thought he was full of crap. He liked to brag about how he knew powerful people and his dad knew dangerous people, and he insinuated that he had been involved in some other crimes.
But you didn't believe him?
No, he's got quite a reputation around town with women and telling tall tales.
We're hitting the pause button on this testimony because we have to slip in a break. Before we do that, let's get a quick analysis from our guest who's joining us in studio. We have trial attorney Karina Cooper all the way from New York. Good to have you on. Let's talk about her demeanor on the stand. And one thing that I like that this defense attorney, Nicole Watt, is doing, that sometimes you do see defense doing when they have their client on the stand, she's not asking questions in a way that's a softball answer that seems to be just very coddling of the witness. She's asking it almost in a way that challenges her. Why should these jurors believe you?
Well, this is a good thing for the defendant because essentially she won't be caught off surprised when the prosecution starts to ask their questions. So the defense is asking questions that would rattle most witnesses, but you want her to now come across to the jury as if she's being truthful, as if she's being very straightforward. And so the questions that she's receiving gives her an opportunity to kind of ensure that the jury sees her for who she really is.
Now, we know things may change when she actually gets to the day of her husband's death.